But without further ado, I want to invite you to meet our speaker. We've got Mr. Rudy Davis over here.
Morning, everybody.
Come on up, Rudy.
Huh?
Yeah. Like I mentioned in the advertisements for this time, Rudy is an ex-Geek Squad agent.
Yes, sir.
Not a current Geek Squad, but still, he's still a geek.
Yeah.
So that counts.
It's kind of ironic when your dating clothes are also your work clothes, you know.
Wow. But either way, it's funny. I was just working with Rudy, putting away the stuff we call it truck, because the truck comes in on Friday night, drops off a bunch of stuff, and we got to put it on the shelves. Rudy's been helping with that recently over at Best Buy. If you don't know, it's my side job. I was just talking about this topic that we wanted to do, and he showed some interest in it, and he's, I would love to be able to give a talk on that. And I said, well, why don't you do this for me? Get it off my plate.
I'm still kind of kicking myself in the shins.
You don't know what you got yourself into,
No.
but that's okay. I'll let you take it from here. Okay, Rudy?
All right. I do have to apologize if I sound a little bit shaken up. It's been about 2 years since I've done a live presentation. Brief introduction about myself. I get to try this little toy out. So I was 4 years old when I got my first computer. It was a Packard Bell. It was an old hand-me-down from my dad. Ran Windows 98. From that time, I messed around with DOS programs and got into Commodore Basic a little bit in the earlier years, or later years. But I believe that's me on the left right there, little dude in front of the Christmas tree right there. My brother's in the center, and my dad with the long hair there on the bottom is my dad. He got into computers, I would say about late 90s, around there. But, sorry. Yes. I didn't really know much computers at the time. I just got started. I think I was about 4 years old when that picture was taken. And I was already fully conscious. It's kind of a weird thing to be fully conscious at 4 years old. One of these days you just wake up and it's like, I can smell, I can see, it's beautiful. But I have many core memories embracing myself in the wide, wide world of technology. Many people devote their lives to one of two careers that mostly deal with automation. That's information technology, such as consumer electronics, mobile, things like that, and automotive, so cars, because cars nowadays are just getting a lot more smarter than what they used to. So my dad still does, once in a while, custom computer builds. These are the ones that he has done in the past, I would say, decade. These ones here with the little red tubes and all the fancy little lights is fully water-cooled. Doesn't take any air whatsoever. It's getting kind of crazy nowadays. It doesn't look like your ordinary Dell or HP computer. Now, a little bit about myself. I was a Atterbury Job Corps student. I was in office administration, so my main priority is in Microsoft products, such as Word, PowerPoint, Excel, Access, which was my main priority at the time. But I was an Atterbury Job Corps student graduate of 2020 and 2022. 2020 was when I decided to make computers a full-time career. And then, unfortunately, my last computer build was in 2018. I didn't get much into the hardware kind of things. It was mostly just software. And when I got my first job working with people when it comes to computers, that's when I started to pick up scam prevention. It was a really interesting time at the time. Now, let's get to the meat and potatoes. Some of you already know me at the Best Buy Geek Squad precinct as that bumbling Poindexter. Because I am a bumbling, clumsy Poindexter. And believe me, I'm doing my best. And this opportunity brought before me is a mainstay memory already. I'll remember all your faces even years after this. But it's also a mainstay memory of what I love doing the most, helping people here and abroad from a silent threat that scares many of us at the mere mention. It isn't political, it isn't contemporary, it's been around for quite a long time, I would say about 5,000 years or so. It's scams. unfortunately. I see it in my line of work every other day. I see people's bank accounts absolutely drained. Fidelity, 401k, investments, all gone. All because, unfortunately, they were made a fool. And people don't like being made fools. It can happen to anybody. I was nearly a victim of a scam at age 16. And during my parents' separation, unfortunately, my dad almost fell for the oldest trick in the book when it comes to social media. Facebook jail. He tried to get out of Facebook jail, he called a number, and unfortunately, he almost was a victim of a scam until they started asking for his banking information. Thankfully, I caught him right there, and I was able to prevent it. I'd say that was about 2018 or so. Now, it can happen to anybody. Right now, you're probably asking yourself these 3 questions. If I know what a scam is, why should I care? How can I spread the word? Or what can I do to prevent a scam? These questions and more in the coming slides will be answered momentarily. Now, this is a whole exhaustive list of the types of scams you'll probably encounter in your life. Just like talking about fallacies in English class, you probably already come across one of these scams in your life. You just point them out. You think, yeah, this sounds familiar. I've probably seen this before, whether it's by email or by a text, or a direct phone call from some random police precinct in a city that you've never even been in, asking for a fundraiser. It's kind of weird. Now, many of these are old scams or have been done to death, like the shopping scam, where you'll click on a link and it says that you want a free iPhone 10 Pro Max. Now, even though the 10 Pro Max doesn't even exist, and the 10 has been out of service since 2021, or the Nigerian prince scam, where a person from a foreign country asks, that is supposedly very wealthy, asks you for a deposit. And that can be $200, $50, $400, which is thousands of dollars where they come from, unfortunately. Now, unfortunately, you won't be getting that money back if you fall for one of those scams. It's just the way of the world. Now, while many of these scams are relatively new, they take advantage of your lack of technological literacy and require your trust for the scam to work. Sorry. Now, for the sake of time and to prod your minds to be wary of scams and do your own research, we will be covering the 3 most popular scams that fall within your age group and demographic. And that is primarily the investment scam, government scams such as the IRS or the Social Security Administration, and my line of work, tech support scams. Now, because this is subconscious bias here, unfortunately, when I was making this PowerPoint, we will be mostly covering tech support scams since these are the ones that are coming up more and more prevalent in the coming years. But we will first cover, if I can turn the page, sorry, investment scams. I can read. Since I started my interest in technology at a very young age, there are a lot of causes to fall for an investment scam. The main course of action in such a scam is cryptocurrency. You probably heard this word coming up more and more in the past 20 years. Somebody invests $2 worth of Bitcoin and suddenly they have $20,000 in the span of 5 years. It just exploded out of control. But I don't care who tells you what benefits there are to cryptocurrency, whether it's young people or old people. Bitcoin and any form of cryptocurrency is too volatile and too reliant on community trust. You'll see headlines of famous characters telling you to invest in a form of cryptocurrency. You've probably heard, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Dogecoin, things like this. It's just too volatile, it's too crazy. Because one day, Bitcoin is suddenly $200, but then it'll drop to $5 because everybody pulled out when it was $200. There's suddenly an overabundance of Bitcoin. It kind of plays like the stock market, but it just explodes out of control. You never know overnight if your $4,000 is going to turn into 50 cents. Now, that's mainly because it's a form of a rug pull, or a pump and dump, as it's also called, where people will invest, they'll say there's an X amount of Bitcoin. I would say about 40,000 Bitcoin. And they go to invest, but they don't tell you or anyone else that's invested in the Bitcoin, and they pull out. They made your money, literally made your money. NFTs, let's go back for a minute. Longer term cryptocurrency scams are primarily that pump and dump, as well as the Ponzi schemes. If you do your online research later, there was a place called BitConnect, where it was supposed to be this corporate cryptocurrency for people that are, I would say, middle class or up. They're like, yeah, I'll get behind this. And then suddenly, they literally just pull the rug out from under them. And even the employees of BitConnect were absolutely fooled by thousands and thousands of dollars. They were in the poorhouse by the next week. And then there's NFTs, which is also probably a buzzword you've heard in the past 5 or 6 years, where it's based off of a form of art with different variations. Say like a painting of a monkey, and the monkey has a hat on. Suddenly, that's its own form of asset. It's kind of convoluted and complicated, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around it and why people would invest into this kind of thing. But investing in a picture, or a picture that suddenly has a watch and a pair of glasses and a hat on, it just doesn't make sense. But with variations of that single form, it's too complicated to boil down, so we'll leave you up to your research when the presentation is over. I love this little thing, it's cool. Government agencies and banking scams. It's a common scenario. You'll receive a call from a 1-800 number or a 1-888 number. Keep in mind, they called you. You did not call them. That's the main thing there. And they name off a random bank that's based in your area. Say, hey, it's Chase or Fifth and Third or insert banking name here. Federal Credit Union, I think it's called. I'm not from here. It's literally a case of phishing, and they're trying to get a bite off you. They'll state your bank account's overdrawn and either have you buy gift cards or wire money to Western Union. It's a classic. The main category of people who are likely to fall for this type of scam are people that will take risks in investments and stocks, including those that do decide to opt into investing in Bitcoin. For example, Fidelity accounts, 401k accounts, they'll have you pull all that money out to invest in this car engine made out of water. But those that do hold multiple bank accounts, credit cards, anything with a high financial portfolio, or are even destitute in a financial crisis, will panic and tell the gentleman or the woman that tells you in that phone call in the occurrence of a scam. They'll say there's a sense of urgency, your bank account's overdrawn. Hey, if you don't invest in this now, you're out $40,000. It just don't make sense. Now, in the video in the next slide is made by a man by the name of Jim Browning. That's his name on YouTube, Jim Browning. Even Mr. Rom knows who I'm talking about. Who hacks into these scam call centers and exposes how a scam plays out in real time. Unfortunately, he does not intercept the phone calls, just the person who is doing the scamming. Now, regardless of what government agency or business name is being used in the video, listen to the scammer and Mr. Browning's words.
And the reason the victim will see money in their account is because the scammer will edit their bank page when they're logged in. They're not really adding money, but it will appear to the victim like they have. But they will also use victims' bank accounts to receive money from other scams and use them to launder their money. Sometimes they'll even get their victims to put money in cash into a shoebox and send it to one of their accomplices.
What do you guys think about that? In real time, this guy was tapped into the scammer's computer, intercepted the phone calls, and was able to translate everything. And I know it's a video, but in real time, he always had somebody translate for him if they spoke in Hindi or Tamil or any of the other languages that are based in India. But unfortunately, some people, you just get to them before it's you get to them after it's too late. It's not great. In my experience at the Geek Squad precinct, unfortunately, they go to me first before they go to their banks and tell them to lock their cards, give them a new card, change their checking and routing information. And by the time they get to the bank, their accounts are just billed at like crazy. Sometimes $5,000. I had somebody get to me, unfortunately, and it was too late. I think it was about $8,500 and some change because the conversion from American dollars to Indian rupees. So we've covered 2 of the 3 most popular scams that you could come across. These scams prey on a sense of urgency and confusion on your part. But one great conduit to those 2 scams is a scam that will no doubt be more common in the coming years because of how information technology has just exploded in the past 20 years. You probably heard buzzwords like ChatGPT and AI and machine learning, things like that. But with young people and old getting their first piece of technology, the one thing that people will no doubt in the coming years fall for is the tech support scam. Now is there any Best Buy members here? Total members? Austin? Yes. You guys get emails from Geek Squad a lot? They say, hey, Geek Squad, sending you an email here, has a Geek Squad logo. It says, we're gonna charge you about $849. Our top tier membership's $179. That seems way overpriced, ain't it? But that'll happen a lot. And, it doesn't just happen with Best Buy or Geek Squad or anything like that. Best Buy and Geek Squad, it's one and the same. They're just different names. It's like the Wood Forest Bank and Walmart. They work inside of the Walmart, you know? Geek Squad works inside of the Best Buy. There's no dedicated brick and mortar Geek Squad stores anymore. But I want to ask you guys these 3 questions. If a pop-up on your computer just takes over your whole screen, it looks like you can't get out of the pop-up. It says your computer was hacked. And you're possibly called at random or are already active in a scam. 1, at the time of your phone call, is there a sense of danger or urgency? Are you anxious? Do you feel like you're being rushed by the person over the phone? Or are you rushing yourself to get your problem fixed? Step back, take a deep breath, and just hang up. Unplug your computer if you need to. That usually stops people. They get the pop-up or the email and says that their computer's been hacked. They just unplug their computer or just hold the power button for a few seconds, turn it back on. It's already fixed because there wasn't anything wrong with your computer. It may run slow from time to time, but nothing a quick tune-up can't fix. But second question is, are you a member of a certain service? I'm gonna read off a few. I just want you guys to raise your hand if you have any of these, okay? Geek Squad members, I already addressed you. Anybody use Microsoft products like Office, anything like that? Yep. What about Google services like Gmail, OneDrive, anything like that, yeah? What about like Facebook? Anybody? Has anyone put money into Facebook before? No? That makes sense, because Facebook is free. Weirdly. What about iCloud? Does anyone have any iPhones, Apple Watches, things like that? Yeah? AirPods? A lot of those are buzzwords. You'll get emails from Apple saying your iCloud has expired. That happens a lot. Somebody did mention that. Ooh, which one? Yes. You'll get emails like that saying, oh yeah, your iCloud's about to expire, and we're gonna wipe your whole backups. We're gonna wipe all your backups, your photos, your emails. If you don't pay us, it'll be an outrageous number too. Yep. About $700. It's only $1.99 a month, or if you go for the whole year, about $50. It's a good deal.
$2.99 a month.
$2.99?
$2.99.
Oh, $2.99. I was like,
Yes.
$2.99?
Yes.
No.
Just keep it.
Yes. I think the basic 10 gigabit or gigabyte package is 99 cents. Thank you. But anything that involves money or personal information, you'll be notified. I remember I look in my spam folder. In this PowerPoint, I was going to put in a few of my emails that pop up in my spam folder. Thankfully, AOL does okay when it comes to filtering out scam emails, but some just slip through the cracks. I remember there was one with Amazon that said, oh yeah, we have AirPod Maxes. We're going to bill you like $600 on your Amazon Prime credit card. One, I'm broke. I can't afford an Amazon Prime credit card. And two, I don't hardly use Amazon. Once in a while, I'll get something fancy like a plastic bouquet of roses or something for Valentine's Day. Something that's cheap. It's like $10. But anyway, third question. Now, if it's yes to the second part of that question, if it's anything involving money or personal information, how much money? Is it enough to risk having that phone call and tripping yourself into a scam? I would say be wary with who you're talking to over the line. Now, the dead giveaway, of course, is probably the accent. Has anyone ever had a phone call directly and it's somebody over the phone from like India or anything with a foreign accent, anything like that?
My husband did, of course. I do.
I get those from time to time, but it's mostly domestic. It's like a police fundraiser. It's been going around quite often. Because the Back the Blue movement has become a lot more popular in the past few years, you'll be getting those a lot too. People that play into your political beliefs. It's just messed up. It's corrupt. It's immoral, regardless of what you think. But the second video on the next slide is a form of a tech support scam that specifically targets men and women over the age of 50. Mr. Browning will mention certain key words that I will address later.
This is the voice of a scammer who calls herself Mary Alfonso.
Can I have your name, sir?
You're looking at her PC as she's taking calls from people who are looking at her company's pop-ups.
Spell your name to me.
She asks what she describes as a security question.
Can I ask you for security reasons? How old are you?
But the real reason why they ask people this question is that they only target people over 50 years of age. If you're under 50, you get this diagnosis.
And what you can do is switch the computer off and leave it off for 2 hours. After 2 hours, you can start the computer back on again. It will be fine.
So who exactly are these scammers who only target the over 50 age group?
Critical alert from Microsoft.
They call themselves halotech.net, but they also use payment gateways called Global's MSP and 7 Money Services. And they do all the usual tech support scam stuff.
I'm going to run a security scan on the computer to see exactly what's the problem on the machine. What I want you to do is...
I'm able to monitor what she's typing on her keyboard. She wants him to see a message whenever this dir command finishes. This is what she types. She's so adept and bored with this sort of scam that she spends her time rooting around the victim's computer and will download 1 or 2 files just to see what they are. The victim is completely unaware that she's rooting around his files because she's using software called Supremo Remote, which doesn't warn the victim that his files are being downloaded.
The scan seems to be completed, and if you look on the bottom of the black color box, it says Allurion Trojan detected, security stopped, computer hacked, system at risk. Can you see that?
She will type exactly the same virus message for everybody's machine she accesses.
Is that the machine is being hacked at this moment of time, and there are people who are connected to the computer from overseas. That's the reason why you were facing this problem. If you see here, it says active opens. You have 2099 connections.
These open connections are just business as usual whenever you're surfing the internet. They are no indication of any sort of hackers or infection.
Foreign addresses. These are all those encrypted codes of these hackers who are connected to the computer.
She deliberately chose the Allurion virus because she can now reference a very old Daily Mail article on what the Allurion virus is in another attempt to scare the user.
Now, just because this is a transferable Trojan, sir, there is a warning message which is coming up on a Daily Mail website, which says that if you have a Lurion virus on your PC, you will get kicked off internet on Monday. Can you see that? If you have a Lurion virus on your PC, you will get kicked off internet on Monday.
So with her script of scare tactics complete, she will lay out a list of ways to fix the problem, which will cost the victim £300 or £400 to get fixed.
Computer, what I want you to do is that, can you please type in your email address so that we can send you a response email on your email ID? Can type in your email
Here
address
she is
for me?
once again downloading some personal files of one of her victims. She has a nosy at their contents. This all happens as the victim types out his email address and his name in the window behind.
And can you type in your first and your last name, sir?
Once she finally does get a victim, she will ask her boss, who's called Rizwan Khan, exactly which of the 3 payment gateways they should use for this victim. Here they select Eastern Unions, or sometimes it's called Eastern Merchants. But because I've got access to the scammer's PC, I was able to find out who all of the victims were. The rows in black were unsuccessful, and the ones in green, they did manage to get payment. As with another recent video, I've pointed all of these victims to this video and given them an indication about how to get their money back.
Alright. What do you guys think about that? It's kind of messed up, isn't it? While they're typing out their banking and email information, these people with this remote access software, we'll get to that later, are able to just root around in your computer's hard drive and look for pictures, anything incriminating if the scam goes wrong, your text documents, things like that. It's kind of messed up. I'm not a fan. Actually, I'm kind of sick thinking about it. It's your privacy being exposed. It makes you feel kind of vulnerable. I've been in that situation before, but we'll get to that later. But now, these questions you were probably asking yourself earlier. Why should you care if you're aware? I know it says on the PowerPoint something different, but to boil it down, why should you care if you're aware? Since the start of the information age in the early 1990s, scams have blown out of proportion. They've made millionaires homeless, whole families destitute, and unknowingly, people made fools. It's your mission to help keep your folks' generation in the black when it comes to finance. Now, in the 6th chapter of Proverbs, there are 6 things that the Lord hates, 7 that are abomination to him: haughty eyes, lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, and a heart that devises wicked plans, feet that make haste to run to evil, and a false witness who breathe out lies, and ones who sow discord amongst your brothers. That's actually a good thing. I remember that from, I used to go to Catholic church, so I kind of remember that one. But don't be aware of scams and do nothing about it. Now, how can I spread the word? Simple. It's social media, Facebook, texting, literal conversational topics whenever you're talking to your loved ones or your family friends. Stop outside for coffee in the morning, when the weather's nice, of course. Or even strangers that you're sitting next to on the bus. What can I do to prevent a scam? I should have went to the next page. There are ways to prevent a scam, but your most immediate concern at the time of a scam is postponing a scam. Now, what do I mean by this? If you know the person on the other line is a scammer, stall them. Talk nonsense. Literally mess with them and keep them on the line for as long as you can. These types of people are called scam baiters. And what they do is basically literally stall them, mess with them. It's humorous to you, but they're going to be frustrated and start throwing names at you and everything. Don't be offended by it. They're the ones trying to make you the fool. Make them the fool. Heck, I remember, I think back in the Skype days, we mostly did a lot of prank calls back in the day because you could dial in on Skype. But what we used to do was actually call these call centers, and unfortunately, it's a little bit messed up at the time, but we tried to not act our own age and just say utter gibberish to them. They tried to play along with us, and they're like, oh, do you remember your credit card information? And we're just like, oh no, I have to pick up my daughter in the morning, and I gotta get groceries, and I gotta stop at JCPenney, gotta get my wife a good necklace, you know, I gotta treat her sometimes. And they were just playing along with it for about 30 minutes, maybe an hour. By the time the hour hit, I heard on the other line, they're trying to play us. Get out. Started throwing curse words, swear words at us, very offensive names, because apparently us rich Americans are overly corrupt and immoral. Well, that ain't right. But now, in the event that you're part of a scam, be aware of these 3 key words. No matter how convincing it may seem, one of these 3 things they'll try to get you to install on your computer or your iPhone, any kind of smartphone. Primarily Log Me In and AnyDesk. Now these are the ones that we see on the daily. Whenever there's a scam victim and they drop our computer off to us at the precinct, these are 3 most popular kinds of that remote access software that allows someone with a valid internet connection to literally remote control into your computer. The scammer cannot remote into your computer at will. I do want to say that. You have to give them explicit permission by installing one of these 3 softwares on your computer. Now, if you receive a pop-up or an email that's suspicious, you can use something called Scam Void. And what you can do is copy the web page link in your web browser or your phone browser and go to Scam Void and paste it in there to see if it's a legit email or literally a scam. If you receive an email and that email has a link that says click here or anything like that, you can just right-click it and copy the link, go to Scam Void, and then paste the link into Scam Void to see if it's faulty or a legit email. Now, if you're on a desktop or you're a laptop user and you use Firefox, you can install browser add-ons. And these are really handy because they have certain filters that filter out all the advertisements that pop up on a web page. You'll get some on the sides, probably one on the top, and when you scroll down, there's one on the bottom as well. And what this does is basically make those non-existent. Now you're probably asking, why is this pretty useful? Well, it's not just the advertisements that they block. It's the scams that look like advertisements. Also, there are certain web pages that it filters out that show up as that pop-up, you know, the big red screen that says your computer has a virus, call this number, it's Microsoft support. Even though you might use a Mac or a Linux computer, it doesn't matter. Now, if you use Google Chrome or Microsoft Edge, the most compatible add-on and software suite that you can purchase. Now, I do want to say the AdGuard extension or add-on is free of charge at the Google Play Store. But if you want to invest in their software, they have a few other handy features if you want to keep your computer secure. Now, it's a more premium sibling to that uBlock Origin that I mentioned, but it does come with a price. But basic ad block software is free to use. Bless you. Bless you. Now, this one's my favorite. I do like this one. Does anyone use an antivirus on their computer, like WebRoot, Norton, Kaspersky, things like that? Anybody? Now, for mobile and computer users, whether it's a laptop or a smartphone, I cannot stress the necessity to have a premium antivirus software if you use your technology to manage your financial information or use your phone or computer for work that you do at home. To that end, I would heavily recommend Trend Micro because they have a whole software catalog that's dedicated not only to virus protection on your computer, but have certain contingencies in place if you receive scam emails, emails contaminated with viruses. That's kind of an old practice, but it still can happen. Not to mention, if you receive those pop-ups on your computer on a daily basis, this pretty much filters it out because they do have scam pop-up prevention. Now, it can be used with both your Android, your Samsung, your Apple smartphone, and Windows devices. We have all 3 premium tiers of Trend Micro at Best Buy, by the way, so if you ever want to stop by, you can pick this up for, if you're a Best Buy Total member, I think like $49. That sound right, Austin?
I think so.
49 bucks. But if you swing by the Geek Squad precinct, usually we charge like 20 bucks, but if it's a simple setup, under 20 minutes, we can hook your computer up with Trend Micro. Now, if you just have a smartphone and prefer to do everything pen and paper style, whether it's go to the Social Security Administration or the IRS, if we have an IRS here, I think. But if you still use your iPhone's Safari browser, I would not recommend it. Or if you use a Samsung phone, the default browser that comes with that, usually it's Google Chrome or the Samsung Internet browser. I would not recommend these two because there's no contingencies in place if you receive a pop-up, and especially pop-ups on a smartphone, they can get kind of a hassle to remove. Now, I cannot stress enough the need for a third-party internet browser. Now, you're probably wondering what a few of these icons are, so I'll try and break it down for you. These are internet browsers that you can download for free on your App Store or your Play Store on your phone. If you value your privacy for your Samsung phone, use Ghostery. It's a free, open source, literally no charge internet browser that has a few ad blocking things in place. Now with phones, it's kind of a pain to remove ads and things like that because with how Google does Android, it's a whole thing of bureaucracy. I won't get into it. For your iPhone, something called Brave. It's a little orange lion head, can't miss it. It's on the App Store, free of charge. I use it for my phone too. And if you use Trend Micro or any other scam antivirus or anything like that for all of your devices, then just getting away from these 2 web browsers will be a pretty solid investment, even though this investment's free of charge. Now, Firefox, for either of your browsers, if you already have an antivirus, or this little red V right here, Vivaldi, I cannot stress enough how cool Vivaldi is. It has a built-in email manager on the computer, so you can just log in, don't have to go to AOL.com or Yahoo.com. But to that end, I pray everyone stays safe on the internet and just going about your day-to-day. There are many people out there to get you for everything that you own. I can't stress that enough. I appreciate taking time out of your precious schedules and to attend this presentation. Technology has skyrocketed out of control these past 20 years. Things used to be so simple. And even I, at 25 years of age, am slowly being outmoded and outdated with the advancements in technology. I know I look like I got fired from NASA, but this is actually how I go out. Not the tie, though. It's a little bit tacky. But it's a scary world. You've actually made it to the point of seeing artificial intelligence take place. I didn't think it was going to be possible when I was like 5, 6 years old. I thought it was just Terminator stuff. What's up?
I've been notified by several health companies, health industries.
Yeah.
And Verizon, Comcast, of data breach.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pretty much in the black, what do you call it? Whatever. All my information's out there somewhere.
Mm.
I mean, it's got to be if there's a data breach in all these.
That's actually a good question. I was going to mention data briefs in the PowerPoint, but I was cramming everything down at like 3 in the morning a couple of days ago, so I needed a day of rest. But data breaches, that's a good one because I've actually had this happen at the precinct before. Now, a data breach is where Usually somebody that works at a certain company, whether it is United Healthcare, because you've probably heard in recent news that a certain United Healthcare figurehead unfortunately was murdered. But that's actually something that's happening a lot. People are working for these healthcare centers and just want to tear that company apart because what the CEO did, I don't want to get into it, but it's very messed up. But it doesn't matter if it's United Healthcare or Humana or any other HMO or Medicaid service that you use. You'll hear data breaches all the time. You know, whether it's your Google, your Gmail, your email of any kind, it doesn't matter what it is. Data breaches, they're kind of hard to address by a person-by-person case. Now that Trend Micro I did mention does have something like that. I think it's free of charge. I would look into the Trend Micro website to see if there's something like that. But when it comes to your information out there, and you probably heard like the deep web, dark web, things like, big buzzwords like that. I would say, in my semi-professional opinion, there's always a bigger fish. It doesn't matter who it is. They're trying to get somebody like a Jeff Bezos or something like that. Now, chances are when they say data breach, it's old email addresses and passwords that you haven't even touched in years. I remember, I think it was about 13 years old, and I still had a Hotmail email address. Even though I've used AOL for the past 20 years, it's always good to have a backup. I got an email, I got a text or an email, or I can't remember, it was about 2013 when this happened. This was the first major widespread data breach that happened. Does anyone remember when the movie The Interview came out? It was a parody movie about North Korea and a couple of reporters going to North Korea. And North Korea threatened to hack into, I think, Sony or something, because Sony was the publisher. That actually happened. They said that my Sony account was compromised. The last video game console I had was a PlayStation 3, so I'm not too worried about it right now. That was like 2013, 2014. But anyway, to answer your question, there's always a bigger fish. It could be somebody with millions of dollars or $700,000 or even $70,000. I wish I had $70,000. I would love for them to try to scam me. But if it's a data breach, chances are it's just old information that's been leaked out. Now, social security cards, IDs, things like that, that does happen from time to time. And if that does happen, usually the government's pretty good about updating it right then and there when a data breach is reported. Or if your driver's license number and things like that has been leaked, nothing really to worry about. Banking information, again, it's usually same day, within a matter of hours, before they can try to crack into it again before they download any information off you. It's messed up. But any questions so far? Yes?
What about the do not call list, the federal and state do not call lists to avoid the call in the first place? Are those legit?
Half and half. They usually update the do not call on a month-to-month basis, but that's usually whenever a call center that's trying to scam you has a landline. There's something called phone number spoofing, and what this is where somebody with a computer, like, here's a good example. Remember the Skype story I told you guys about? When that happened, there was, sometimes it says hidden call or hidden phone number, but sometimes it just pops up as a random phone number in Texas because the area code is way out of whack. That's what basically call spoofing is. It shows up as a random area code, sometimes even a random country code, and we'll say, you know, they'll try to get you into that scam. The do not call list, I believe, updates on a bi-weekly or a monthly basis. I'll have to double check that, but it is legit. I will say that it is legit, whether it's state or federal do not calls. But state is usually the one that I would look at if you're receiving a domestic phone number like an 812 or a 765 or a insert number here. Yo,
I feel like we covered a couple of red flags, like not sending money in the mail. That one guy that showed up on there blurred his face out to hide his identity. But I feel like you also talked about not giving into remoting in software so easily. Can you maybe give some other like real quick red flags? Whatever part, whether it's the beginning of a scam or you might be farther down the line about to get money. Like what can we look for?
So usually a red flag is a phone number just in general that you do not recognize. Now, you can always look up a phone number. I've had to do this a few times. I remember somebody was still using an SBC Global email. Unfortunately, SBC Global got sold to AT&T, but people still use the SBC Global tag. I was looking up SBC Global phone numbers for their support because there was an outage issue, I believe, with that certain, it was SBC Global to Yahoo, sending and receiving. And I had to double check a few phone numbers. Some of them were from legitimate websites like Harvard and stuff, but you can post anything on harvard.edu. It was a random phone number, and I'm like, yeah, sure, this sounds legit. So I pull up the landline, and I'm dialing it in, and it's like, please wait for the next representative. Boop. I don't want to do imitations, but it was basically, hello, welcome to insert service here. Are you a current member with us? Don't say yes, because then that's when they get you. If you say, no, I'm not a member of SBC Global, what are you talking about? I just have a few questions. And they're like, okay. Now, sometimes I do get calls from my credit card. I'm broke, what can I say? I'm 25 years old. Don't worry, it's only like $300. I'll make it next week. But I'll get phone numbers from there as well. You can always cross-reference phone numbers. Usually I keep certain stuff like that in my contacts. Always keep phone numbers that you're familiar with in your contacts, by the way. If it's something that you don't recognize, wait for them to go to voicemail. Federal agencies, credit cards, and just anything other that has your sensitive information, if it truly is an emergency, they will leave you a voicemail. That's always something good to keep in mind. Another red flag I would say is, aside from the pop-ups, certain phone numbers you don't recognize. Trying to think off the top of my head, but it will come back to me later.
What about asking like the ways that they'll ask for payment, like cards?
Yeah. Sorry. Ways that they will ask for payment. I've had this happen a few times when I used to work at the Casey's gas station back in my hometown. I'm from Crawfordsville, by the way. People will come in, ways of payment. God, I can't believe I forgot that. Gift cards. Mostly it's Google Play Store cards, iTunes gift cards, Best Buy gift cards. Something that's a major retailer. Target is a very big place for this. Mostly it's just the Best Buy gift cards, but there's a new gift card that's coming around called Razor Gold, I think it is, Austin. Whenever I did checkout, it was actually like Razer is a gaming mouse and keyboard company. Very big flashy lights, but I think it's called Razor Gold or Razor Cash. That's a very popular one. Now, because it's a new one, people like to use that a lot. Usually it's a gift card you've never even heard about. It won't be anything niche like Bass Pro and Gun Store or trying to think what else. But anyway, it'll be a major retailer. Not really Walmart gift cards because Walmart gift cards are far and few between. Usually everybody pays by cash or card. No one uses a Walmart gift card. Amazon is a big one, things like that. Another way is to make it seem like there's a sense of urgency, they'll try to have you wire money. I've actually had this happen a few times and I had to stop them. I'm like, do you know who you're talking to? Is it a relative? Is it somebody overseas? Is it a relative overseas? I remember a frequent flyer customer I had at Geek Squad was this Vietnamese dude, really cool guy. But he would talk to me about how he had to wire money to his folks back in the country. You know, that's cool because he's Vietnamese. I saw his driver's license. Another thing I will have to say as far as red flags, gift cards, wire money. Sometimes they'll ask, literally, audacious as it is, for your account and routing number. Never give them the 3 digits on the back of your credit cards, by the way. Some people have actually done that and told me that, and I feel sorry for them. It's not in a condescending way. Some people just don't know what the 3 numbers on the back are for. You can give somebody a whole string of numbers in the expiration, but never give them the 3 digits on the back of the card. I think that about covers it. Any more questions?
Is there anything at this point that people our age, that that's at the top of why people are getting scammed? You know what I'm trying to say?
Oh, the main reason why people in this group are getting scammed.
Like, send $1 to me because I'm upset that President blah blah here, and I will save this money. My husband got this text. And
Really?
It's a 17-year-old girl. And just send $1 and then make sure and let everybody else. It was almost like one of those things where she's going to end up getting all this money. She's not going to do anything with it, but keep it. But I mean, is there anything else that's out there that, you know, sometimes it's in the paper, they say this is a scam, don't do this. So, but is there any that you, off the top of your head?
So that will boil down to the other forms of scam, one of the slides that we saw up there. Can we pull that up real quick, Austin?
Oh, which thing?
Types of scams. It was one of the ones in the beginning.
Yeah.
Oh, sweet, that was fast. Okay, so aside from business scams and shopping scams and, you know, prizes, sweepstakes, lottery, I got direct message from someone that was supposedly one of the Powerball winners from a couple of years ago. I don't remember the lady's name, but I think she's having it pretty easy in Maui or whatever it is. I don't blame her. I would do that with $50 million too if I gambled. I'm a recovering gambling addict, by the way. But the family and friends scam is a good one. Usually, insert police precinct here. Your daughter is in jail. Your granddaughter's in jail. A DUI. Usually, it's one of the major crimes that people get interred for. So, you know, it can be, oh yeah, your son's arrested for assault and battery. Again? Or a little bit of shock humor there. I do apologize.
Barbara plays with them because friends here, they'll call her and tell her that her grandson's been put in jail, and she'll just talk to him and stuff, and then she'll finally tell him she's never been married and never had a kid.
That's good. That's that stalling I was mentioning. Just absolutely, like, give them the most extreme caricature that you can get. Especially with my age, I talk about how I always go partying and drinking, whatever 25-year-olds do nowadays, or, you know, or younger. But you literally just act like an extreme caricature of your age. That is always one way that people will think you're too gullible to mess with you.
Here's the one I use whenever they call me.
Exactly.
I just talk to them, and it's like this, and it don't take them long to let go.
Do you know your credit card number? They'll start throwing swear words at you. That's when you know you got them. Another one that's very popular, real quick, I will mention, is this one's coming up a lot because people in my age range are using dating apps nowadays. You've probably heard of Tinder or Bumble or Facebook dating. For some reason that exists. I've actually been talking to somebody for a minute, and we video call almost every other day, you know. I'm on the straight and narrow now. It's pretty sweet. But romance and risque trust scams, it can be from anybody. It doesn't even have to be a romance thing. It can just be a supposed social friendship. And they say, oh yeah, I'm going through tough times. I don't mean to be a bother, and they'll use like 50 different disclaimers before they ask you. That's usually an over-indication that they're being too overly polite. If they're being too overly polite, come on. If they're being too overly polite, then that's usually like, maybe I should be wary about this, but he seems like a sweet guy. Stall them for a little bit and see if they get frustrated. If they get too frustrated and they just start randomly throwing swear words at you over text, that's when you know you got them. Usually just stall them for a little bit, and if they keep asking and asking, to say, oh, no, I can't right now. Times are tough. Country's in a weird place or something like that. Not that I would know, but another one I would say that's pretty common nowadays. Now, in your folks' age range, retirement is something that's going to be a little bit spotty. So I remember I was working at Casey's and a 75-year-old lady was working there in the kitchen, sweating over the hot stove, making pizzas, donuts in the morning. She came out of retirement because her 401k dried up, unfortunately. Wasn't a victim of a scam or anything, but when she got into the workforce, it's just 401ks were starting to become a more prevalent thing. People were working full-time in, say, the 80s or 90s a lot more. It wasn't just a part-time job that was, 7 1/4. But employment scams are becoming a lot more prevalent. I've been getting random texts nowadays from places like Indeed or Workday or any other resume, CV websites. These are becoming a lot more popular now. You'll get a random text saying, oh yeah, here's my WhatsApp number. WhatsApp is another way to text people, just like, just an ordinary text. But WhatsApp is becoming a lot more popular with scammers, primarily because with a valid internet connection, not just a cellular connection, but an internet connection, you can send texts to people with your phone number, kind of like how Skype used to work back in the day. That's becoming a lot more popular, unfortunate. Oh, I'll go this way. Fake check. Fake check is, I don't know how to explain it. It's not one that's too popular. It was real big in the 80s and the 90s. Usually, I don't know how it usually went around, but off the top of my head, I would say that usually you literally send a blank check in the mail, or I'm remembering now. My mom got something in the mail a couple years ago when I was living with my parents before I moved back here. I think it was one of those cash-in loan places. You would just give them you would just report 2 weeks of your salary, and they would give you X amount of dollars in return. They're becoming a lot more popular nowadays because most people are relying on Social Security income, food stamps, Medicaid co-pays, things like that. People really living on a tight budget. And my mom got something in the mail one time. And she was like, oh, I got pre-approved for an unsolicited loan of $5,000. This sounds pretty sweet. I just have to put my contact information in and possibly, I think it was like the first row of your account number in your checkbook. And that's how they can usually get you too, because they know they got you on the hook. They'll call you and try to get more information out of you, like your routing number and things like that. However, I looked at the check, and for some reason, this was even before I got my prescriptions. These are prescriptions, by the way. Photosensitivity. I was looking, and there was like a hologram, and says, not for distributive use, do not copy. Well, you almost fell for it, Mom. Times were tough back then, so, any first chance that we got whenever it came to money, I was one of the babies that grew up in the crash. You guys remember the crash of 2008? Very crazy stuff. I was fighting over milk back then. Black Friday, violent. But times were tough back then. And things like fake checks and blank checks and anything relying on older technology that doesn't have to be a credit card. It can even be literally mailing money and some change even. And they got you on the hook. They're primarily reliant on trust. So, in the future, just be very wary. Take notes. Cross-check phone numbers. Things that we've discussed.
Check the source.
Check the source. Even on Wikipedia, you got to check the source. But it's a scary world we're living in with advancements in artificial intelligence, machine learning, And to what ends people will take to track you and use your personal information for fraud and take you down for every hard-earned penny you have made in your lives. And you have to hand that money down to your children. And if your children still have a little bit, they'll give some to their grandchildren. I do want to thank Mr. Austin for letting me speak to you guys. Ty Gilliam, I don't think is here, unfortunately, but but as well as the other folks of the congregation, I do want to say thank you. This is my first time speaking in 2 years. You know, when I was student board at Job Corps, I used to write speeches and everything, give people the lowdown of what's going on in our council. You know, it was real eye-opening. I really hope with, you know, Mr. Austin and the other congregation's permission that I could do something like this again in the future. He's been a great friend and a great confidant, and I know we psychically bump heads from time to time, but you know, you've been pretty sweet. So
No, Rudy, it's been really good. I'm just really glad that I decided that I was comfortable enough to talk with you about just what's going on at the church and what we got planned so that we could even get you hooked up for this. I hope you guys enjoyed the talk, and thank you again for contributing to the fund. If you didn't get to do that as it came around, the cookie jar is still back there by my empty coffee cup there on Kim's desk. But that's all we got for you today.
yeah, that's right.
Thanks. Be looking for the next time.